So Zelensky and Trump have met, and people are saying that Trump said. So Zelensky and Trump have met. Let's see what happened here. Before we start, I just want to point out the fact that Zelensky's drip is on point, number one, and I like the fact that he's dressed that way to symbolize to the world, like, nigga, my country's at war, and I'm at war with my country. Like I'm standing beside him, like I'm with him. Gotta respect that. Constant reminder. Great just message of just how he's dressed. I respect it.
Well, thank you very much. It's an honor to have the president with us. And he's been through a lot. He's been through a tremendous amount, like probably nobody else, almost nobody else in history, if you really get right down to it. And we're going to have a discussion and see what we can come up with. But a great honor to have you with
Thank
us.
you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. Thank you so much for this meeting. Five years passed.
Yeah.
So we had meeting again here in New York in September, and now there are a lot of challenges in Ukraine, United States, and of course I want to discuss with you. I think where we are together, I think we have common view that the war in Ukraine has to be stopped and Putin can't win. And Ukrainians have to prevail, and I want to discuss with you the details of our plan of victory.
My honor.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. You have a question for the president? Anybody?
Why did you decide to meet?
I think it's me, or to both us. Okay, thank you so much. First of all, it's very important to share all the plan, all our steps, how we can strengthen Ukraine. And of course, we have to decide it now, because after November, we don't know who is, only Americans decide who will be the president. But we understand that till November, we can't stop Putin. We have to do it. We will try on the battlefield with our heroic soldiers, but we understand that after November, we have to decide, and we hope that the strength of United States will be very strong, and we count on it. That's why I decided to meet with both candidates with all honor to them.
Yeah, you see how Trump is looking over? Zelensky made a great point, and Trump's uncomfortable with the point, but the point is true. The reality is, the reason why Zelensky has to meet with Trump is because Donald Trump is such not a loose cannon, but an idiot. Donald Trump has strayed so far from the grace of God, so far from common sense, that Zelensky has so little faith in the future of the United States, he has to meet with a running candidate for president. Normally, this probably wouldn't happen. He'd probably meet with Joe Biden and Kamala and call it a day. Not the people running for the election, which of course Kamala is running, but she's the vice president, so you get my point. The reason why this meeting is happening and why it's so integral is because Donald Trump really has been held at media gunpoint by Republican conservative media. Tucker Carlson, because there's so many rubles up his ass, has been spewing out Russian propaganda for 2 years straight. And as a result, Trump's voting base now expects an American foreign policy completely divorced from reality. It now expects an American foreign policy that enables and emboldens Vladimir Putin, an enemy of democracy, an enemy of freedom, an enemy of freedom of the press, an enemy of the United States of America. Tucker Carlson, through the media, now has one hand strung up behind Trump's back, and Trump now has to play this game of, I'm a competent politician who understands foreign policy. Oh, and by the way, I'm beholden to my radical base who has compelled me and forced me to engage in stupid foreign policy. That's why you consistently see Donald Trump on stage saying Zelensky's the greatest salesman of all time. Every time he shows up, he leaves with $100 billion. He has to do that because that's what his base wants to hear from him. So I'm glad Zelensky pointed that out. You are so chaotic that I had to meet with you, someone who's a former president a felon, a criminal, an insurrectionist. I have to stand next to you because I don't know what's going to happen if you win. I can't trust that you're going to conduct yourself like a proper fucking... Like, I have to meet with you now, not wait for you to get it. I have to meet with you now because you're so crazy that I have to make sure the well hasn't already been completely poisoned.
Thank you.
Mr. President. Yeah, Mr. President Trump. So what are your expectations about this meeting? So what I expect to hear from the President Zelensky, and what are your expectations?
Say it a little louder.
What are your expectations from this meeting? What do you expect to hear from Mr.
Nothing.
President?
Look, this is a meeting, and we have a big race going on right now. I guess 37 days left, and we're leading in the polls, and so we'll see how it all works out. Hopefully it'll work out, but if it does, we're going to work very much with both parties to try and get this settled and get it worked out. It has to end at some point. It has to end. He's gone through hell, and his country has gone through hell like few countries have ever. Like it's happened anywhere. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. It's a terrible situation.
Bro, why does he talk like this? He's very much capable of being extremely articulate, but he chooses to talk like a bum.
And I will say I have had a great relationship. It was very honorable. I don't even know if you know this, but when they did the impeachment hoax, it was a hoax, just a Democrat hoax, which we won. God. But one of the reasons we won it so easily is that when the president was asked, it was over a phone call with the president, and he said he could have grandstanded and played cute, but he didn't do that. He said, President Trump did absolutely nothing wrong. He said it loud and clear, and the impeachment hoax died right there. He could have said, well, I don't know, I don't know. And I never even told you this, to be honest, but he was like a piece of steel.
Yeah, Donald Trump is absolutely lying here, per usual, in character, props. I feel bad for Zelensky because Zelensky didn't come here to be used as a political prop by Donald Trump. He came here to speak to Trump to try to convince him to do not just the right thing, but the common sense move in geopolitics. Like, do what makes sense, please. Trump can't just take this moment to be a professional politician, leave behind what we all know he definitely did. Instead, he brings it up, uses Zelensky's presence as political weaponry to try to absolve himself of any guilt for what he got impeached for. And it's just a horrible... It makes Zelensky look like he's a cohort and an assistant in Donald Trump's latest repeated denial of reality. It's just, this guy can't do anything normal. It always has to be some sort of, like... But here's the thing. Because he's done so much insane shit, he has to constantly direct the conversation to, I never did that. He would say it. Everyone would say it. I never did anything. He constantly has to direct the conversation toward one of the crazy things he knows he did, claim he didn't do it, and invoke any kind of reasoning for why it didn't happen. It's just ridiculous. And to utilize someone's presence in your country for this purpose is so unprofessional, so ghetto, just disrespectful.
He said President Trump did nothing wrong. We had a very nice call. He congratulated me on his victory. It just won. And I remember that. He could have played cute, and he didn't play cute. And so I appreciated that.
It's all about him. It's all about him. He could have played cute. He could have admitted to the fact. He could have said that I did it. It's like this, bro. Like he looks crazy. He looks crazy. Why? Like what? Like, bro.
So we have a very good relationship, and I also have a very good relationship, as you know, with President Putin. And I think if we win, I think we're going to get it resolved very quickly. I really think we're going to get it resolved.
I hope we have more good relations.
We're going to have. Oh, I see. Yeah, but you know, it takes two to tango. You know, and we will. We're going to have a good meeting today, and I think the fact that we're even together today is a very good sign. And hopefully, we'll have a good victory because if the other side wins, I don't think you're going to have victories with anything, to be honest with you. So
that's not what he said 2 days ago. This man right here, Donald Trump, here's what he said 2 days ago. And he looks like he's on his last breath. If he exhales again, he might collapse. This man, Trump, he got up on a stage 2 days ago and sat there and said, the Russians, they fight wars, they fight wars, they fight wars. They beat Napoleon, they beat Hitler. Someone told me. And it's like, okay, first and foremost, you're born in the 40s. You should just know by default that the Russians defeated the Nazis. But let's clarify something. American weaponry allowed the Russians to do that. The Russians, like, in terms of ethnic groups that are good at war, the Russians are way down at they're really bad at war. Same thing with Napoleon. Resources stretched thin, improper logistics, deep in the winter. You know, I will give it to the Russians. The scorched earth tactics, you know, it worked well, but let's not pretend that Russians are these uber elite fighters. They're terrible with organization, terrible with logistics, terrible with discipline, terrible with loyalty. I mean, what kind of country has a rebellion in which a mercenary organization tries to drive to the capital to oust the seated president? You can't make this shit up. It's absolutely insane. The reality is Donald Trump 2 days ago, without saying it, basically encouraged Ukraine to surrender its land to Putin because the Russians are warriors. They fight wars. They're warriors. They're tough. Never mind the fact the Ukrainians were able to fight back what we thought at the time was a global superpower. Turns out to just be a regional superpower. The Ukrainians defied any and all odds. If I had to pick between who I want next to me, I want the Ukrainian on the battlefield. They seem to be like they the real G's. They are the real G's. They the real gangsters. I'm cool on send the Ukrainians, frankly. That's because the argument is we shouldn't be trying to support Ukraine. The Russians are legendary warriors. They're Saiyans, apparently just Saiyans, or they're Uchihas. You can't beat them. They're too talented at war. If that's the argument, what are the Ukrainians then? The people who were able to beat them back, the people who were able to embarrass them for 2 years straight, the people who just made an incursion into Russia's sovereignty. What does that make the Ukrainians? They got to be the super gang. They got to be the super warriors, right? And then Trump sits there and says, it takes two to tango. It takes two to tango, is what he sits there and says. Donald Trump refuses to delegitimize Vladimir Putin at all. But that's what he has to do. He needs to stop trying to legitimize Vladimir Putin over and over and over again. That's what he's choosing to do. He continuously chooses to legitimize Vladimir Putin over and over and over again. Of his own free will, he chooses to do this. The reality is, we will have to speak to the Russians, but the problem is, the statement, it takes two to tango, in conjunction with Trump's rhetoric for the past year, it does not sound like Trump's plan is to hammer down on Russia for the next year or so and force them into a socioeconomic position where they have to accept a deal in which Ukraine becomes a part of NATO. It takes two to tango coming from Trump's mouth signals to me that Donald Trump is going to try everything in his power to legitimize Russia's illegal invasion of Ukraine and try to force Zelensky to make a retarded deal. This, if Trump wins, this could spell the end of America's relationship with Europe. This could be it. Not the end entirely, but the end for a while. I don't know what the outcome is going to be if he wins in terms of like the long term, but if he wins for the next 8 or so, 10 so years, we might have a completely destroyed relationship with Ukraine and NATO, thanks to Trump. You can't. This is the most like this. He can't even behave himself. But what could we expect from a guy like this? He's supposedly a billionaire who eats McDonald's for dinner. He can't even get a home cooked meal. He's just cultureless. He's just no culture. He can't behave himself. He's in a meeting with the president of Ukraine, a man defending democracy from a member of the new Axis, and he can't stop himself from trying to absolve himself of the clear guilt of what got him impeached. But if he had done the right thing, he wouldn't have to stand next to Zelensky and act a fool. It is what it is. we have to stop this man at the polls because he, bro, like we gotta beat him at the ballot box because this nigga, bro, like I'm tired of him, bro. Let me know what y'all think in the comment section below. Like, comment, subscribe. I'm out.